I'm Dan Hunt, and this is Up Close and Personal. We are live at the Aria Hotel, Casino, Resort, and Spa in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada at World CryptoCom. And my guest today is Daniel Kim from Sweetwater Digital Assets Consulting. That's a lot. Welcome to the show, Daniel. Pleasure to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
Before we talk about Sweetwater, let's talk about where you came from, because I think Sweetwater has something to do with that.
Yes.
So you grew up in Wyoming.
That's right. I was born in Rock Springs, Wyoming. My parents immigrated and became American citizens about 50 years ago, and my father was a chemical engineer working at FMC Corporation, which worked on Trona mine ore in Wyoming. So that's where I was born.
So you grew up in Wyoming.
That's right. Sweetwater County, in fact, which is
Sweetwater County.
Yes.
And that's why you named your company that.
That's right.
So you went to high school, and in high school, all kids have dreams. All kids are looking to be something. Do me a favor, think back to when you were in high school. Think back to being a senior in high school. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, by that time, I had had some success in like the competition circuits for math and science, and so I knew that whatever I did would be in science. Hopefully doing something that was, well, not hopefully, definitely doing something that would be aiming to benefit humanity and the United States, and help make the world a better place, to be cliche. I mean, at that age, that's kind of all you really know, right?
Exactly. And you know, we get everything from I want to be a mechanic to I want to be an astronaut to I want to change the world. So it's all, you know, relative at that age, because you really don't know what you don't know.
Sure.
But you know, when we're talking about you don't know what you don't know, you are somebody that probably knows more about anything and everything, because every once in a while, folks, I come across some people that are just truly amazing. And Mr. Kim here is somebody that doesn't hold one advanced degree. You don't hold 2 advanced degrees. You don't even hold 3. You have 4 advanced degrees from 2 or 3 major universities. So let's talk about how that came to be, because that's truly excelling in at least the educational format.
Yes, so yeah, going back to high school, when I knew I wanted to be doing some sort of scientific endeavor, I decided to study physics. So I ended up spending 10 years at Harvard. I did my bachelor's, master's, and PhD in experimental particle physics, which is the branch of physics which seeks to understand what the universe is actually made of. So going to a smaller level than atoms. But basically the constituent...
So basically you're trying to research why?
Pretty deep questions, right? As to
exactly.
What's the world made of? But as it turns out, I also really enjoyed music. So it turns out that the first job I had out of graduate school was with a symphony orchestra. I ended up staying there 10 years and performing over 700 concerts.
So you were out of Harvard.
Yep.
And the first job you had after your studies, and you were part of many, many studies at Harvard over a 10-year period,
right.
You came out and you became a concert violinist professional.
Well, yes, I wasn't playing solos, but
right.
Which is what was the connotation behind concert violinist, but I was a professional.
Okay.
I was in one of the quote-unquote major league of American orchestras. There's a club of about 50 of them,
right.
In which you get health care and a salary just for playing your instrument.
Right.
So yes, I won an audition for one of those, initially in the first violin section, but then the keyboard job opened up and I ended up winning that. So I had 2 different perspectives within the orchestra.
You know, and a question that I am often asked on this show is, you know, what was your favorite piece of music and why?
I've always been fond of Prokofiev. So he was one of the Russian composers of the early 20th century. There's like a consistent, I'd say, brilliance behind his music. He has like lots of interesting harmonies. And from his personal life, there's some fun stories too. So he himself was a concert pianist. and so occasionally he would perform his own works for audiences. And apparently at one of these performances, the audience really didn't care for what he had written. And
Right.
so they actually started booing him. And as they were booing, he stood up and gave a grand bow and proceeded to continue playing on, while people were walking out of this piece, showing zero respect, but he basically took that almost as a badge of honor and kept doing what he was doing. And then eventually, I think time has, with the passage of time, there's been a greater recognition of the value of his work.
Okay, so we went to Harvard for 10 years.
Yeah.
We got one of our 3 degrees, right? 4 degrees.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
3 or 4 out there. Where'd you go from there?
Yeah, so I felt like I was missing out on the science part, even though it's a great thing to relive the Western, classical music literature and recreate that for audiences, which is really what performing arts do.
Right.
They bring back the works of genius so that contemporary people can enjoy it. But I also wanted to get back to doing some physics too, so I ended up finding out about radiation oncology, which is one of the fields of medicine in which MDs and physics PhDs have historically cooperated with to help patients. So I ended up jumping through the hoops and becoming a board-certified medical school professor.
So a board-certified medical
school professor.
School professor.
Yep.
Okay. And you taught radiation oncology.
That's right. So new MDs who want to become radiation oncologists, they must pass a series of examinations. One of them is in the physics of
Right.
radiation that they're prescribing for their patients, and so I would help get those MDs over that hurdle.
Over that hurdle. Okay, and where did you get that degree? And where did you teach that?
Right, so the physics PhD from Harvard, even though it wasn't in medical physics, qualified me to get in the door in
Right.
that field. And then, like I mentioned, there were there were various hoops that I had to jump through to get to that faculty level. But
so you've been to Harvard.
Mhm.
You have a degree from Yale.
Right, that was the MBA, which happened after that. So
Okay.
as a PhD in healthcare, I was thinking that it was very noble to help cancer patients in a time of need for them.
Right.
But at the same time, clinical practice is rather repetitive, right? So even though medicine does advance on the time scale, it doesn't advance on the month-to-month time scale.
Right.
It's like a kind of year to year or
Year
decade
to
to
year
decade.
or decade to get. Okay.
Right. So the other thing is that, as far as the kind of the organization of decision making goes, it's to be a PhD in medicine, you're a bit of an odd duck, right? So I was thinking that maybe if I showed some broader competence, because I've always been interested in the ways that the world works, and so that's why I signed up for an MBA at the Yale School of Management.
At Yale.
Right.
That, just an incredible story, and truly an overachiever. But we're in Las Vegas
Right.
at World CryptoCon.
Right.
Okay. Where did that come from?
Right.
So how did you get from science and music into cryptocurrency?
Right. So yeah, to continue with the story, like when I had the experience of doing the Yale MBA, my investing professor ended up offering me a position as a hedge fund. So I ended up being head of research at this long-short equity hedge fund, and doing some research, including publishing papers in academic finance journals on the effect of liquidity on asset pricing. So
And folks, guys, he's very humble. He was the head research manager,
head of research.
head of research for a $1 billion hedge fund. Not one of these million, 100 million, what, a $1 billion hedge fund.
Well, yes, right. The firm that I was at had several different investment products.
Right.
One of which was a hedge fund. There were other long-only products, but the total assets under management were about $1 billion.
I've interviewed a lot of hedge funds managers, and they all have a common theme: stress. Did you feel a lot of stress in that job?
Yes, I mean there is. At the end of the day, even if you have a a good investment thesis, and it's backed up with research, and the fact is that nobody knows for sure how it's going to fare going in the future. And the thing is that it can be, it is stressful because I really wanted the best for our clients. I wanted them to get the results that they wanted. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that led you into Sweetwater?
Yeah, kind of parallel with this work in the equity markets is when cryptocurrency really started kind of taking off. Now, fortunately, I was one of the first people to read about the original, Bitcoin white paper, the Satoshi white paper, which is now 10 years and 1 day old.
That's
actually.
right.
Yep, so
we were actually at the party last night.
Yes.
We had a great big birthday party here at World CryptoCon. A lot of cake, a lot of booze, and it was Halloween, so a lot of funny costumes too. But
I see. Well, I missed out on that. I was en route on a plane.
Okay, you were on a plane coming here.
Right.
So you were in that world very early on.
I was, to one extent or another. Like so many people, I found out about Bitcoin and immediately dismissed it. This it's some combination of a scam or nerd money,
right?
Or some like geek experiment that's never going to really do anything. So, I think most people have the probably correct inclination to dismiss something like this that comes out of left field. The origin of the Bitcoin white paper, it didn't come from a established financial corporation. It didn't even get published in a reputable journal. It was just this document that just showed up, right?
From nobody, from nowhere, on the internet.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And so, what are the chances that this is going to really have a genuine, germane insight that's going to have the potential to change the world? Initially, I didn't have that, and it was only years later, after kind of sitting on this and thinking on this, that I came to the personal conclusion that there is, I think, something very fundamentally valuable to humanity in this blockchain stuff. And if I could sum it up in a sentence, so the internet brought the cost of copying digital data from place to place zero. Right? Then the mobile revolution kind of took the wired internet and then made that wireless. So now everyone walks around with a cell phone and takes for granted that we can send email, we can send messages, and all of those activities are essentially copying data from one place to another. Right.
Exactly.
So now we have ubiquitous data copying, and the marginal cost of that data copying is zero. So what's going to be scarce and new and valuable in such a world is a source of digital scarcity. Now, digital scarcity currently exists under traditional financial institutions. For example, your bank maintains a scarce digital ledger of your bank account.
Correct.
However, it's unfortunately, and news events have shown this, when you have this digital scarcity under the custody of trusted institutions, there are plenty of opportunities for those institutions to kind of betray that trust. It could be at a low level or a high level, but for example, like there have been reports of banks who use their customers' bank information to open up fictitious new accounts to then kind of generate fees off of those, right? So there's been, unfortunately, a lot of abuse in that system. So what Bitcoin generates, which is truly new and I think valuable, is a source of digital scarcity that does not require a central trusted party to maintain that scarcity. So I think that's the kernel of the idea that is going to be revolutionary. And I don't claim to know whether it's going to be Bitcoin or some other competing project that will end up kind of making this more of a household name.
Right.
But I think there is a genuine kernel of innovation there that is really innovative and worthy, kind of like on a Nobel Prize of Economics kind of level to help. And so observing all this as a finance professional who was not involved in blockchain,
right.
I was kind of just looking at all this as a hobby on my spare time, and recently came to the conclusion that I wanted to do this full time. So that's why this last summer, in July of 2018, I founded Sweetwater Digital Asset Consulting and went on my own full-time into crypto because I'd like to help institutional investors, so pension funds, endowments, trusts, who are interested in cryptocurrencies as an asset class, but really don't know who to go to. Because it's very hard to find somebody who not only has technical expertise within cryptocurrencies and can fully understand and explain the guts of what's going on and explain it in a way that makes sense, but also someone who has that and experience managing institutional sums of money and has an understanding of what it's like to be in that world.
Now, your website has, I'm assuming, all the information that if somebody wanted to get a hold of you or get more information on what Sweetwater Digital Assets Consulting does, that information is there.
It will be. So
it will be.
Right. This is so new, so that my company is it's still in the beginning stage. I'm still working on the website actually. So
okay.
Right now, yeah, if people want to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn.
On your LinkedIn page?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is actually I'm not going to do it. My guy Jason behind the camera over there, he's going to do it. But what we're going to have him do is put your LinkedIn on the details of this, so anybody that wants to get a hold of Daniel, I got to tell you, I interview a lot of people all over the world, and very rarely do I come across somebody that is so inspired, and it's just truly amazing to meet an individual like you. I'm going to ask you one more question.
Sure.
Why? What's your why? What keeps you going? Why did you start this brand new company and walk away from what you were doing in crypto?
Yeah, I think it comes down to this innovation that I think can have a benefit to humanity. And one thing I'd like to do is, yeah, I'd like to help really more Americans get into this asset class, because I think there's, anytime you have something new, there's going to be sort of a gold rush, right,
yes,
to get in. But in this case, it's a little bit complicated because people are not sure if this is gold or if it's fool's gold, right? But at the same time, if it does happen that this asset class does end up growing and becoming a major part of future world finance, I think there's going to be really a competition for this scarce resource. It's a scarce digital resource. And there are other countries who kind of, quite honestly, have maybe a higher average level of like science and technology background.
Right.
And so I'm slightly worried that we might be falling behind in this as well. So that's one of my objectives in doing this, is one reason I'm kind of putting myself out there and trying to help kind of established institutional investors get into this asset class and get into it safely, and not squander their resources on the many projects that are out there in this asset space that are of dubious value.
Exactly.
Because right now crypto is in, I would say, a dot-com bubble sort of period in which there's a hype, a cool new technology. It's a buzzword all the time, and there's a lot of misconception out there about what it can and can't do. In that sort of scenario, it's important to, I think, have as part of your intellectual arsenal somebody who can put all of this into perspective and have at least a slightly better chance of being able to tell the future Amazon.com from the pets.com.
Exactly. Well, Daniel, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
I truly appreciate you on our show, Up Close and Personal. From the Aria Hotel, Casino, Spa, Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada, at World CryptoCon, I'm Dan Hunt, saying have a great rest of today and an even better day tomorrow.